Hi there, welcome back everyone. Yeah, sorry about last week. We were having a bit of trouble with Skype and just everything technological there, but even these past two shows we've recorded, they've corrupted, so we've done the best that we can with them, and they'll be back to the higher quality next week. Thanks everyone. Enjoy the show.
The last recording for last week, the file corrupted, so it wouldn't upload and all the audio disappeared. So sorry to all 114 of you that watched the last
117.
107. My apologies. And from now on, we're going to record two on a Saturday now. So we're going to do one full show for sport, which is this one, so all sports talk. And then later on the day, we'll record a separate one for media with films and games and music and all that fun stuff. Sports. What's been happening? Sports-wise. Here we go.
Alright, let's go over last week's football. How did we all do?
Man United get shagged 3-1 for Crystal Palace.
I watched that. It was kind of hard to watch.
Aye. That was. I don't even know where to start with that. The post-match reaction by a lot of the fan base has been, right, this is proof that we need to sign Jadon Sancho. Just give them whatever they want and get them. But the problem with that is you can have all the great attackers up front you want. The defence is the problem. We have like the worst defence of any of the big six that there is. The signing Jadon Sancho would have meant we would probably have drawn that game rather than losing. The 3 goals are still going to be 3 goals because and Lindelof are really bad. And a lot of the stick and the blame always seems to land on just Lindelof, like he's the only one that's making a mistake, because the English press will refuse to acknowledge that Harry Maguire is awful at what he does. He's the biggest waste of money I think Man United have ever spent. And I'm old to remember Cleberson and Eric de Jemba. Let that be known. He's so woefully bad at what he can't run. He has zero pace. And he marks 10 players. He's supposed to be the leader and the captain, and Lindelof is every bit as for the blames. Like the stick shouldn't just be on him though; it should be them both because they're equally terrible. That's the problem. Man United need a defence. Jadon Sancho is not going to make a lick of difference to the overall.
Yeah. I thought the actual penalty was really harsh on United. And that's coming from a Liverpool fan. Like I'm very happy he lost, but like. It just kind of hit his hand.
It did. Aye.
And like you can kick a football at mad speeds. So is he just what's he meant to do there?
It was definitely a terrible penalty, and then the fact that he had they made the team Palace retake the penalty that De Gea saved with a different taker is equally ludicrous because his left foot I think is like 3 inches off the line or something.
I think both his feet was off the line. That was the issue.
Stupid rule though.
I get why you need to have a foot on the line. I don't understand why they changed penalty takers. Surely, if you're retaking penalty, it should be the same guy that took the penalty.
That should.
I don't understand that.
That should be the case. And even the feet on the line thing is a stupid rule because now the goalkeeper's got to just stand on the line like a big statue. Well, the player taking the penalty can run about and move and hop and skip and jump and everything else that they want today to try and distract the goalkeeper. The keeper's just on there like a statue to the bar. Comes in.
The keeper can do. He can move his one leg forward. It just needs to be like the smallest bit of his heel that's on the line.
The penalty taker can like start skipping and jumping, but the keeper can only move his foot one wee pace forward. It's such a stupid.
There's no way that the keeper can like time that to perfection because no one can jump that far. No. So how are you meant to time from when the ball's actually kicked for the back of your heel to stay on the line? I think technically someone could just place it to the top corner and no one's ever going to get it.
It's that way. Where do you draw the line? Like, can the penalty taker, can he move the ball in front of the line? So it's like less yards. If you know what I mean, can he move the ball off the penalty spot?
There needs to be any change. The previous system for taking penalties worked. It worked fine for decades. I don't know why they changed the rules.
That was always the rule. To be fair, it's just now they brought in VAR. It's highlighted a bit more because they weren't able to see it beforehand.
Well, definitely, it wasn't regulated because Jersey Dudek in the 05 final was basically at the ball when it was
absolutely. And I'm sure Tim Krul was doing the same in the World Cup.
Yeah,
Arteta was fond of that thing as well. But that's good you bring up VAR. I want to talk about that. The penalty against Lindelof for the handball. the ref went and watched that back on VAR, saw that there's no physical way anything could have been done about it, and then gave the penalty anyway. That's been the thing about VAR that's made it so hopeless, is that the referees are using it, watching back the footage, seeing that some things aren't the penalties, and then giving them as penalties anyway. It's ridiculous. This technology is supposed to make refereeing better, and it's making it worse because they can still see clearly in slow motion whether things either are or on the penalties, and still 9 times out of 10 give the wrong decision. I don't know how they.
Is that not highlighting? Is that not highlighting refereeing incompetence to a degree? I understand human error, but I think when you can watch it back 4 or 5 times, that's what VAR should be doing. It should be eradicating human error. So when they're watching it back 4 or 5 times and still making a ridiculous mistake that we've seen 4 or 5 times, then it does beg questions on why isn't the referee governing body being challenged on this? Why is it always the same referees week in, week out? Why isn't there an evolving door? Let's say with football players, if a football player's not doing his job, but say I signed for Man United and I was shit, I would get sold to a shitter team. So why are these referees continuously refereeing at the highest level and continuously making mistakes?
Yeah, and it's the same refs.
And then you get it like Jose Mourinho, like questions it. He gets when he comes out and bashes the ref, he gets fined. So it's run like a dictatorship as well. Like you can't question this overlooking authority of the governing body of referees.
There was no English referees at the World Cup either. So you're just highlighting how bad they are. Now you give them this technology and they're just kind of sat there thinking, oh no, I was right. It's like, no.
Not only did they not acknowledge the mistakes that they've made, but the FA goes a million miles in the opposite direction, and they have this annual referee appreciation day or whatever they call it. Remember? This whole thing, respect the refs. They did a whole day. Sky Sports just floods you with coverage of this whole, we love our referees, don't abuse your referees day. They shows you young people training to be refs for the grass levels up to the Premier League refs. They wouldn't get abuse if they were any good at their job. As you said, they've got this machine that can show them the replays in slow motion to 4 different fucking angles, and they still make the wrong decision. That's why they've abused them.
I'm a big fan of the Bundesliga, and see the way that they implement it, it's so much better. They'll actually go over and have a look at it from most things, whereas here it's either a penalty decision or a red card, I think. Then they can go over and look at it. But the way that they look at things, and because I don't think they fully comply with UEFA's rulings with the handball stuff. I could be wrong about that, but that's more of an opinion for the ref. Yeah.
So it should be, because some of the rules are stupid. The Lindelof situation is a perfect example of that. I think they've made it now that if your arm is up in the air or something, then it's automatic.
Yeah, away from your body.
Aye, but Lindelof is how far away is he from the ball? A whole foot away. You can't physically turn your body in that space of time. He does not get the time. It should never have been a penalty. And the penalty has been retaken.
It's that way as well. Have you ever played football? How do you play football with your hands by your side?
Exactly.
A lot of it's natural movement, and you're seeing it, especially now. See when it's when someone scores, and it's they're reviewing the goal for in case the ball's accidentally hit off their hand, when their arms are by their side. Yeah. So their arms are in their natural position, and they're not touched their hand, so we're going to chop the goal off. Mm-hmm. It's no, you've just brought this ridiculous rule in to justify having VAR. It's you don't need to change the rules to justify having VAR. Keep the rules the way they are and use the system.
Rules absolutely. The way they had been, VAR was supposed to be an addition to that to make the game fairer, but it's not. It's implying, it's enforcing these really stringent, idiotic rules that are ruining the game. And I'm not just saying that because it went against Man United. I've long accepted that they're shite now. That's their new position in the league, is to be bad now. I accept that, but that was ridiculous.
What I think doesn't help is, see when you get a situation like that, when the refs reviewed it 4 or 5 times and he gets the wrong decision, you've got idiots like Jamie Redknapp in the studio that don't pull that up. they don't question that. They just slam VAR. And that referee has viewed that 4 or 5 times. Like, VAR is only a technology. It's only a replay system. It's not. That's not what's making the decisions. Which
exactly, it's a machine. And it's not like a human thing that's saying, "Oh, VAR's took that off." No, it's the stupid referee who's looked at it and still thought, "No, that's done."
That's the biggest problem. The panels, the Sunasis and the Redknaps, they just sit and complain about VAR, but they never, as you say, address the fact that it's a human referee that's watched this replay back with 4 different angles and has made a fucking mess of it. They dictate the rules. The idiot referee has to then view the footage and give the decision. But I don't think they're legally allowed to criticise referees.
I wonder if they're told by Sky not to do it because of like fines.
Probably.
I never thought that there was an issue with the handball rule.
No.
Like, from way back, like if you do it deliberately, then that's a handball. Like, but if it just kind of brushes your fingers, I don't think that's a handball.
And even then, the Lindelof situation, it hit him like up here somewhere. It was more or less the shoulder.
Yeah.
That's got to count. Everything. But United would still have lost that game anyway because the fitness isn't there. The team is just the defence is, as I said, the worst in any of the big 6.
Yeah.
They would still have lost that game, but the fact that these are the decisions in what's supposed to be the biggest league in the world is fucking insane to me.
Yeah. And then you've got like people who can actually take advantage of like Liverpool against Spurs in the final. Like Mane just punts it at Sissoko's hand because like this handball rule is so vague. It's just going to end up being a penalty.
It's so stupid. You think it's supposed to make everything better, but you can get all the nice goal line technology in you want. If the referees analysing the footage are fucking idiots, it's not going to make the slightest bit of difference. And in fact, it will make a difference. It just makes everything worse, which we've seen consistently since VAR got brought in. And because they used at the 2018 World Cup, and most of the refereeing decisions in the World Cup were insane. I don't remember one. It was the group game between France and Australia. I don't remember what the exact decision was. France got a penalty, I think, because of a tackle, and the VAR footage showed that there was no actual contact between the Australian defender and whoever the French player was. I don't remember. They won the ball and he didn't actually touch the player, and then the ref watched it over and went, penalty, and gave France a penalty.
They done that as well in the final, didn't they?
Aye.
There was something very similar in the final for France against Croatia.
Aye. That happened a few times, and funnily enough, mostly with France. So I don't know what that's about. But turns out you can get away a penalty now for winning the ball in a fair challenge. And then the punter's like, he slid in from behind, but he won the ball and there was no contact. So you can get away a penalty now as a defender for no making contact. Because the referee that reviewed the footage thought, he clearly did. Because see, if us at home sitting watching the game can see in the replay that there's no contact, then surely the fuck so can the ref that's there live at the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can see it, so how can they not see it?
Like, I'm all for VAR. Like, as a theory, I'm all for it. But like, if it's implemented correctly,
it's the same as any theory. Theories sound great on paper, but the fact that in terms of practical application, you've got the human error factor, and that 9 people out of 10 are fucking idiots. It's the same with any theory.
Like Martin Atkinson, I'm pretty sure Martin Atkinson has done like the VAR job, and like he's just not good at it.
No,
it's just simple as that. He's not good at his job.
No, he's not. None of them are. I can't think of a single good referee other than that bald French fella for the early 2000s. You remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the scary looking dude.
Aye, or was he Italian? Yeah. He's one of them French.
I think he was Italian.
Right.
Yeah, was he not on the cover of Fez?
He was, aye. He was
Aye.
Yeah.
Fez games.
What was his name?
What knows? There's no one
some Italian.
And as a United fan, I have a special place in my heart for Howard Webb.
Oh, boo. Howard Webb is Man United top on.
I remember he was getting death threats and all that after one of his European games, Howard Webb. I can't remember what game it was he was managing. No, refereeing, sorry, but he was getting loads of death threats after it, and he had to move his family.
I'm sure whatever they accused him of, he didn't do, because Howard Webb was an honourable man and a to the letter of the law referee that was exquisite at his job.
Do you remember Mark Clattenburg?
Aye.
He went off to like Saudi Arabia or something, and he said that there was a game. It was Man United against Spurs, and it was like 1-1. And then he just gave Man United like a free kick in a really good position for like a really light tackle. He was like, well, it was better for the fans if there was a winner in the game. You've just admitted to basically fixing the game, idiot.
That's no Man United's fault though.
No.
That's his fault. I've got a lot of people blame Alec Ferguson for that.
There's nothing on paper, is there?
No, there's not.
But then you the whole Fergie time stuff.
Again, that's not his fault. The referees would give the extra 6 minutes or whatever. That had nothing to do with him.
He was starting his watch at one point, going, add it on.
I see what you think you've seen, but you didn't. That's not what you saw. It's trickery, is what that is. You thought you saw something, but you didn't.
To be fair, I think that was mostly when like United were winning, like real close, and Fergie's like that. Come on, who needs 6 minutes this time?
Aye.
It's like me playing Championship Manager and winning. Time ref. Even though it's a game and they can't hear me.
Come on, blow the whistle. I do that all the time in FIFA. Because you get 3 minutes at added time and you're in the 5th minute.
Right.
The 5th or 6th minute and you're like, they're going to score. Blow your whistle.
When they're on the play, like, come on, ref, time ref. Refs, I say.
But not only for it was a weird team that Solskjaer put out against Palace as well.
It's strange. Officially, he said that is because there was fitness issues with some of the players, like Wan-Bissaka and what was the other one? There was somebody else that left. Matic, I think it was. He said there was fitness issues, but there's a theory going about that that made that team on purpose to highlight to the board that I've got an inadequate squad. So I don't know. I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, because you've only brought in Van de Beek, haven't you?
Van de Beek, aye. And
is he not the only one?
He's the only one now. It's funny as well because a lot of the fan base are saying that the managers don't get financial backing, which we talked about a few days ago on WhatsApp is half true. There's a half truth to that. In the post-Ferguson era, Man United have spent hundreds and hundreds of millions. I don't remember the exact figure, but it's hundreds and hundreds of millions. And they've still not won the league, and that makes you think, well, why is that? Because some segments of the fan base only say it's because Woodward's the Glazers only releasing the money. And that's obviously not true. The fact they've spent that amount of money shows you. The problem where the board are at fault with that is their manager hiring up until this point. There was no long-term plan in the post-Fergie era. They sacked Moyes almost immediately. And then only went to managers with world-class CVs up until Ole. And Van Gaal and Mourinho, between them, spent the bulk of that money. They spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds on mostly superstars, trying to buy big star names for quick fixes. You got Angel Di Maria in there, Falcao came in, Bastian Schweinsteiger came in, Paul Pogba came in, Zlatan came in, and then the rest of the money went to these strange squad players that they didn't buy enough of, because you need a team, like a full squad. You need rotation players. But everybody they bought none of them worked out. How many of the Ferguson signings have actually been any good? Zlatan, he had a great season. That's it.
Yeah.
Sanchez is the other one. That was the other big money. I mean, technically he was free, but his wage bill broke the wage structure at the club.
Oh yeah.
That was crazy. It's no. So the fans are only half right. The board have released money, but the short term fixed managers they both spent the wrong way, and now they're nervous about releasing more money because they've spent a fortune and they've not won nothing yet. They've won things, but they've not won the league. And I can see what Ollie's trying to do. He's spent millions on superstars. He's tried to buy young squad players that can get their best years.
Yeah.
But the fact that they dropped 80 million on Maguire, who, despite what the English press want you to believe, has been an awful signing. He's been a really bad player. He's just not good, and he went for way more than he should have because he's English. That's a thing. That's a fact. And man, whenever United go to buy a player, they get an extra 30 million tagged onto the price just because it's Man United. So I think and then the same fans are saying that now we need to sign Jadon Sancho as if that's going to make everything better. And I promise anybody that's listening to this, as a Man United fan, that's not going to make a single bit of difference. Jadon Sancho. We need to move away from they kinds of transfers, spending hundreds of millions on what we think are superstars, when the squad as a whole needs to be torn in half and rebuilt from the ground up. They need an entire new defence. Like Wan-Bissaka he's a step in the right direction. He's not very attacking as a fullback, but he's an excellent defender, excellent tackler. Sorry, and what you call him, Brandon Williams has some promise, but he's like 19, 20. I don't know.
Yeah, he's really young.
You can't Eric Bailly is without joke or exaggeration, because I'm not making any jokes for this. This is serious. He's the best defender at Man United. Is Eric Bailly? See, when he's fully fit, he is the best defender we have by quite a bit. I don't even think it's close. But he's unreliable in that he's injured for 2 quarters of every season. So I mean, you can't rely on him. So what we're left with Lindelof, Harry Maguire, who have proven game in and game out that they're hopeless as a formation, they're hopeless as a team, they're hopeless as individuals. And that's why I felt really bad last season for all the stick that David De Gea was getting. Everybody was calling him out, oh, he's overrated, he's not been good since 2018, whatever. So if you were a keeper with 2 defenders sitting in front of you, you would be hard pushed to keep clean sheets or to make saves. Yeah. And even in games where he made mistakes, he still made like 3 great saves per game for every 1 mistake that he made. I mean, the hatred for him is wholly misplaced, completely misplaced. I've got nothing but faith in De Gea. He's working with an awful defence,
especially when goalkeeper is such a confidence-heavy requirement.
Exactly, aye. He's getting torn to shreds by the media, not just fans on Twitter, but like the pundits, the professional talking faces are saying, oh, he's overrated, he needs to go. They need to play Dean Henderson in his place, who has played 1 excellent season for Sheffield, to replace David De Gea, who has consistently been Man United's best player in the post-Ferguson era. Consistently. I think he won the Man United Player of the Year 4 times or something since Ferguson retired, and he's a goalkeeper. He's not the problem, and signing Sancho isn't a fix for anything, because we're attacking good. We don't have a lot of depth in attack, but we're attacking. Like, if everybody's fit in a starting lineup, it's a pretty solid attack. They've got pace, they've got goals, they don't need to add to that. And certainly not to the tune of 120 million, because that's just mere money gone to waste. They need to rebuild the midfield and the defence, because the try to build the squadron Pogba hasn't worked, which I've touched on before. That just hasn't worked. And he cost a fortune, and he'll be making a fortune in wages. They need... I don't even know. I mean, who do you buy, though, is the problem. What great centre-backs are available that Man United could see?
Ferguson said it,
I think they missed a trick.
Don't you?
I think they missed a trick with Thiago Silva. Because Thiago Silva, I know he might not fit the philosophy and what all he's trying to build, but you absolutely need experience in the squad. And he's someone who's played at the highest level for so long. And he's gone for a free. He's got a winning mentality.
I see what you mean.
That's what you need.
He would be good if they signed somebody else to go with him. He couldn't just get him because he's 35, 34.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
No go the legs or the pace, and he's certainly not a long-term option. But he would add leadership that is lacking, because again they've made Maguire the captain, and he couldn't lead a fucking piss up in a brewery. I don't know why he's the captain. I don't know how they were extorted for that price for him. So they would need to sign somebody else to go with Thiago Silva. Because even if you put Thiago Silva in there beside Maguire or Lindelof, you've still got 1 good defender who's older next to a pile of shit. They need like 2 or 3 new defenders in there.
But I think it's that way sometimes. That mentality and that intensity rubs off in the other players, because you've seen it with Arsenal when Kieran Tierney came on. I'm not just saying that as a Celtic fan. In fact, I love Kieran Tierney, but his mentality and his ruthlessness, it's went off on the rest. It's rubbed off on the rest of the team, and you've seen it. Like when he came in after lockdown, they looked so much better than what they did. That might just be coincidental, because it's much more time to work with Arteta during lockdown. But I don't think it is. I think that it's not a coincidence that as soon as someone with that mentality's came in, and a winner and a leader on the park, that the rest of the players have been galvanised by it, and it improved their performances.
absolutely right. Man United especially have lacked any sort of stern leadership on the pitch since Vidic left. They haven't had a proper captain. Could you look at who's been captain since Nemanja Vidic left? It was Michael Carrick, who, fine, the fan base love him, is a competent enough player, but as a leader, would you follow Michael Carrick into a battle? No, you would follow Vidic. Because you believed Vidic. He would have died on that pitch if Ferguson told him to. Same with Roy Keane. You look at who was the captain before Vidic. It was Gary Neville, but before that, the last big captain was Keane, and you believe that Roy Keane cared. He cared about the badge. He cared about the club. Like, that was the only thing in his life that mattered to him, and that's what you want in your captain. And you look at Harry Maguire and you think, this is a paycheck to you. You don't care. You get no leadership. Why anybody would listen to you, I don't know. You've only been gave the armband because you're the most expensive defender at all time. You don't give a fuck about what you're doing. You're just there collecting the wages that you've somehow managed to scam out an incompetent board director.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to even think that Smalling should get back in the team. Maguire and Lindelof are so bad. And it's not just that they're bad as a pairing, they're bad individually.
Yeah. Do you still have Phil Jones?
Yep. So we have on the books Smalling, Maguire, Lindelof, Jones, Rojo, Bailly, Twanzebe, and this young boy Mengi. I think that's how you pronounce his name for the academy. They're the centre backs on the books now. Now, if you were the Oli, which two of them are you putting into a game together? Knowing full well that Lindelof and Maguire don't work. Bailly's no fit consistently. So what you left me? Did you bring Phil Jones back
he's picked Maguire and Lindelof today.
Is the team selection out? Haven't they?
I've just seen it there.
Is the statue that's in the day? Right.
Yeah.
Is it pretty much the same team as last week then, Scott?
Pretty much, yeah, but they've got Greenwood in from the start.
Right.
Right.
Are still in the lineup.
It's just went off, but I think he's in. I think he's on the bench for Mensa. He's a good little player as well.
Yeah,
I say little, he's massive.
See, there's the thing, man. Like, they've got talent there. There's a lot of the fan base on Twitter saying fling Twanzebe in there. Twanzebe has all the talent in the world, and he's exciting. But again, what is he, 19? 20?
Yeah.
21 or whatever, it's one of them ages. You can't... Although, I'm starting to wish that they would just do that. It's just fling literally anybody else into that defence, because when they do it, you'll see today against Brighton, Maguire and Lindelof have been consistently found out. And
I think Twanzebe's injured as well, is he not? He's been injured for quite a while.
He was injured all last
season. Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's Pogba and Matic in the midfield for you to do.
Right.
Because it's De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, Shaw, Pogba, Matic, Greenwood, Fernandes, Rashford and Martial. Van de Beek's on the bench again. So did he not do quite well when he came on?
He came on and he was the best player on the pitch.
Yeah, McTominay's on the bench as well.
He got an assist or something, didn't he?
He got a goal.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it. He scored.
So that'd be a midfield three then with Fernandes, number 10.
Fernandes playing higher up.
Right.
Eric Spy's on the bench though.
He played great against Luton. I know that's just like Luton and it's the league, whatever they call it, the League Cup now, the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, the Energy Juice Cup.
Aye, the Energy Juice Cup. Bailly needs minutes. He really does, because without a hint of exaggeration or joke, he's the best defender that Man United have. I don't care how much they spent on Harry Maguire.
I agree.
Is ridiculous. So I'm honestly starting to wish that they bring Smalling back into the team. Because Smalling was never bad. He just wasn't great.
Yeah. He was a good solid 6 out of 10 every game.
He was. He was never error prone. He was never error prone. He wouldn't cost a goal. He was consistent in his job. But there was just nothing glamorous about him, you know what I mean? And that sort of thing doesn't fly in modern football because everybody likes glamour now. But Smalling's like a utility guy. He would just come in, he would do his job. A solid 6 every game, as you say. Rarely higher, never lower. It's not like Phil Jones, who is genuinely bad.
How about boys at Man United? Where did he come from? Blackburn?
Blackburn. He came from Blackburn. Smalling came from Fulham, run about the same time. I think there maybe have been a year in between them.
Yeah.
And you laugh at what I'm about to say because it's like a running joke with us. But again, you look at who's on the books and who has the talent. Rojo is an actually talented defender. I knew you laughed.
He is a good defender.
But he's genuinely better. One of the better options with what we have. He's aggressive. He brings leadership and decisiveness, as Martin was saying. So you can just fling him in there. I don't know why he's... The goalie's not going to sell him. He's already said that. As good as said that. But he doesn't select him either. I don't know why he's there. Like, if you've got him on the books and nobody wants to buy him, just fling him in. He can't do it any worse.
No.
He can't do it any worse than what we've got. Buy Rojo, sincerely. If they were fit, that's who I would... Because at least they'll try and tackle. None of them, they're not going to mark their own players like Maguire does. And they're not going to try and shy away from the ball like Lindelof does. Lindelof is afraid to tackle, and he's a fucking defender who's 6 feet 3. They call him the Iceman because he's supposed to be cool and collected, and he shies away from the ball like a cartoon toddler with a rat. Bailly and Rojo wouldn't do that. They would try and fucking murder you and get the ball off you. That's what United need. Are they going to give away a lot more fouls in this VAR age? Absolutely. But at least they will try. They will try and do what they're paid to do.
Yeah. And the issue is, see if you lose to Brighton today and lose another few games, it will be Ollie that gets the sack. It won't be the players.
Exactly. They'll sack Ollie because the brain deep fan base will start trending Ollie out. He's absolutely the best man for the job now. Absolutely. I don't know what this strange
Where
fix
do they
is.
go? Like, where would they go after Ollie? They've tried every other avenue. Like, do you know what I mean? They went for like your Mourinho's, who did bring a lot of success to Man United.
They did.
And then they went for like Van Gaal as well. And it's like, well, where else do you go? You've tried.
I think they go back to that same kind of well. They go to the Pochettinos, the Allegris, the kind of CVs, rather than like a
Pochettino. I think would do a really good job at Man United.
I do as well.
We've seen what he done at Tottenham when he was leaking a budget.
It won't though, because the club is run so badly. It doesn't matter. It literally does not matter who they have in charge. The
I
club
don't know if it's a worse run club than Spurs though.
Right.
That's debatable. I don't know if the left hand at United knows what the right one's doing.
That's it. Aye. It's not so much the issue that everybody gets focused on is the fact that the board will only spend money or managers, which, as I've said, is already an erroneous opinion because they've spent more in the post-Ferguson era than most teams.
Oft.
So the board does spend money. They do release
Always
money.
loud word of the day there, erroneous.
Erroneous, yes.
Erroneous, so
Yeah.
It's a genuinely erroneous opinion because the board, they spend money. You can Google it, there'll be a list. Man United have spent hundreds of millions of pounds in the post-Ferguson era. That's not the issue. The issue is, the managers spend it incorrectly. 80 million for Maguire, 70 million for Pogba, wages for Sanchez, the other examples, Di Maria, Schweinsteiger, who was world-class in his day. It was well past it, but Man United tried to buy him.
He was, like 32, 33 when he came to United.
Aye. See if it had been 3-4 years earlier, he'd have been the best defensive midfielder in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking far.
Basham was amazing.
He was world class. And then there's all these other players that they spent 20 and 30 and 40 odd million on that never get. Schneiderlin, Ander Herrera. I mean, these guys, they weren't world transfer fees, but they were 30, 40 million at a time and never amounted to nothing. Who even remembers that Morgan Schneiderlin played for Man United? Anybody? Anybody but the fans? Aye. There was Mayor. Who else did they get? This Mkhitaryan.
Oh yeah, Mkhitaryan.
Waste of money, waste of wages, didn't do anything. Well, guys like Lingard are still on the books, but the problem is not so much that they don't spend, because we've already shown that that's not the case. It's that the club is run like a business, and we had a conversation about this a few nights ago. When United became a publicly traded company, they dropped football club from the name. They're no longer seen as Manchester United Football Club. It's just Manchester United. They're a business, and the owners only care about profit. They don't want to win the league because that would take too much investment, and proper investment, not just flinging 80 million at Pogba, 80 million at Maguire. It would require the entire squad to be rebuilt for the ground up, like Liverpool have done consistently and slowly over years. They built a whole new team that can win because they have a proper management, better than ours anyway. But the management, the board, and I don't mean management because I believe Ole does want to win the league. He's a Man United fan. But the board at United want only to finish fourth so they can qualify for the Champions League and meet the revenue targets because they're a publicly traded company and they've got quotas to match. They don't care about winning. They just want to do well enough to continue to be in the Champions League and turn a profit. Because then at the end of the financial season, the books look good. Look how much money we made. Well, we're a big franchise. But what did you win? Where did you finish? We don't care about that. We don't give a fuck about it.
Yeah. Like I said in the group chat, like having conflicting targets is never a good thing.
Right, aye.
Like the ambitions of the playing staff and the managing staff to the board is they need to be in sync.
And that's why to anybody that's watching this that thinks all out and sign Pochettino or Zidane or whoever the fuck else you want, it won't. I promise you, it's not going to make a difference until the people running the club are either held accountable or are bought out by somebody that cares. It's not going to change. Now just remember that fact. They took football club out the name. It's not on your badge anymore. Get your shirt, look at your badge. It doesn't say football club on it. It says Manchester United. Because they're not a team anymore. They're a sports franchise, a business. And until the Glazers and Woodward are away, you could bring Alec Ferguson back and put him in charge of the club. It's still not going to matter. The people running it need to go or be held accountable. And that's like a 20-minute long fucking rant there. Apologise for that. But
how long was Ferguson at United with the Glazers and with Woodward?
Since 2000, right. So there's two separate points. Glazers bought the club in 2005, and Ferguson retired in 2013. So that's strength of time. But he never worked with Woodward. What people forget, which is pivotal to why the club has been downhill, is that at the same time Ferguson retired, David Gill, the chairman of the board, the position that Woodward now occupies, he retired as well. They both left at the same time, Ferguson and Gill. So they had a working relationship together because Gill cared. He was a fan and he cared, and Ferguson would just submit his transfer requests to him and Gill would get them done. No questions asked, no ifs, no buts. We can't guarantee you will sign everybody, but we're going to fucking try. That was the thing. And then they retired at the same time. That's why it's been done so far downhill. People just think, Ferguson retired and every other manager is bad. You're like, no, quite, no. These are talented managers. Van Gaal won the World Cup. He built the modern Barcelona team that we know. I think they were the Bayern Munich, sorry. He built Schweinsteiger into the player we know. Schweinsteiger was a winger when he started his career. Van Gaal made him a defensive midfielder. So it's not like he's an idiot. The man knows what he's doing. And I'm sure he won the World Cup, didn't he, Van Gaal? He was the manager of some World Cup. He won things anyway.
He's decorated.
He's definitely decorated. Mourinho built the modern Chelsea, won things with Real Madrid, won that great Inter Milan team in 2009 that we all remember. So these are
Porto as well. Porto.
Yeah, exactly. Porto. So these are winners. These are born winners and no bad managers. So it doesn't. It just highlights the fact that it doesn't fucking matter who you've got running. Oh no, don't forget that David Gill retired at the same time as Ferguson and everything went down a fucking cliff right after it. Yeah. That's what it doesn't. Jadon Sancho's no the option. New owners are the choice.
And so, like, use them like an analogy. Like if the managing and playing staff is on this road and the board's on this road, and those roads never meet, the targets never get achieved.
So do you just want to move away from Man United? So I think I'm going to get a bit of a reputation as the Man United podcast here.
I hate that.
Awesome.
We'll go. We spoke about this last week a wee bit, but obviously we lost that footage, so just to reiterate it.
And days of trying to fix it, we only ended up with 23 minutes of audio out of a 2-hour show.
23 minutes of gold.
We lost a big rant about Joey Barton.
I don't think I've got it in me going in that little.
So let's just sum that bit up then with saying that Joey Barton is a snake of a man and a prick.
For
what you said.
For anyone wondering why I went in and Joey Barton so much, it was because we were talking about the current Rangers side, and we were talking about how that Rangers side for the past few years haven't been very good. But then I was going on about how Joey Barton claimed that he would come up here, run Scottish football. It was the same way the likes of Philip Senderos, Bruno Alves, etc. We heard all these, to put air quotations in it, big named players were going to come up here and run the league, and Joey Barton done fuck all apart from run his mouth, get leathered off. I think he leathered Andy Halliday. I'll give him that. He battered Andy Halliday, which it's not much of an achievement if you know what Andy Halliday is. It's like Barton the geeky kid in your class. It's borderline bullying, which fits Joey Barton's character. To be fair, the man is fucking brilliant. And it runs in the family, clearly. If anyone's seen the documentary about his arsehole brother and arsehole cousin,
I thought you
murdered.
didn't have their aunt, didn't you? I thought you didn't have
I did,
let him roll it.
Once it started, for anyone that's not seen that documentary, it was actually Joey Barton's family. It was it was on BBC. It was a documentary called Anthony, and it was about a young black man who was murdered by Joey Barton's brother, and I believe it was his cousin. But Joey Barton, to his credit, he was actually on the news pleading that his brother handed himself in and came home. So the guy, to his faults, he done alright. He done pretty good there. But the documentary basically highlights what that boy's life could have been like in 10 years. So, like 10 years, I think it's his daughter's first day of school, and then it goes back to like 5 years, where it's his daughter being born in a train with his wife, and then it goes back to like 2 years before he was killed, and it was him getting married to his wife. So it was just a knock-on effect of how this guy's life could have turned out, and then at the end, it's just him getting murdered. So it's quite, it is very sad. But I lost my train of thought. But to sum it up, Joey Barton is a fucking pleb. And if you hear this, Joey Barton, and you're annoyed at me calling you a pleb, I live in Dumbarton. I will fight you. If Brock Lesnar's listening, I do not live in Dumbarton. So now I'm ready to fight Joey Barton.
See if you battled Joey Barton, that'd be the best thing that ever happened. Ever.
I actually seen him. I seen him once, and he looks slightly bigger in person, but he's put on a lot of weight. Because I was down at Blackpool for my partner. Her brothers was doing a football tournament, and it was down. And Joey Barton was training the Fleetwood side at the side.
Right.
So I seen him, and I was like, that's where I go.
You should have hit him with an iron brewball.
I know, I should have. Jesus. Who do you think's going to get relegated in England then?
Brighton, West Ham, and West Brom.
West Brom, Fulham, and see, Brighton's a good shout, but they're doing well against United right now.
Oh shit! Aye, that game's on, isn't it? I've got my Man United app here.
So you've got Brighton as well, Scott, or you got someone else?
Maybe Brighton, because they're a good team, but they're just kind of living beyond their means.
I'd agree there. I've went West Brom, Fulham, and Brighton.
Fair Brighton. Watch Brighton take United for 5 today.
What about the top 4?
City.
Has your pick changed?
No
Chelsea anymore.
I still think Chelsea will win. Aye. I think once that team, everybody's and starts to gel. Aye. I think they've got too much quality about them, especially now that they've bought Mendy, the goalkeeper, and they can get Kepa out.
I'm really glad we got the last Kepa game.
I don't really rate that Mendy that much.
Better than Kepa.
For what I've seen at Rennes, he's bang average. I think they could have get better, but
aye. I'm not so sure he's the next like Barthez or whatever. Or he's not even French, is he? That's a bad comparison. I thought he was French. He's not French, is he? He's Cameroonian or something.
I think so. I'm unsure where he actually resides from.
Right. That was a bad comparison. I thought he was French, but
I don't really know that much about Mendy, if I'm honest.
It's better.
A diving bastard. I just know that because he got Bio sent off for hee-haw. So me and him would get beef because I like some Bio.
So you know the one that went to Malaga or whatever?
No, that was Bolingoli. He but it wasn't even. See, if it was a week in Malaga, I could probably forgive him, but it wasn't. He went for a day. But they think he was, and he's signed for the Turkish fucking champions. So he's actually, he's probably took a step up for us because he's straight in the Champions League this season.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's a mountain, bro.
Aye, fucking trick.
But I think Mendy's probably still better than Kepa. That's not a good goalkeeper.
Yeah, Kepa's a real weird one. Is he not still the world's most expensive keeper?
He is.
Yeah.
Like 70-odd million.
For Bilbao, he was good. He didn't merit the price tag, but for Bilbao, he was good. And Scott touched on this earlier. Goalkeeping is mainly your confidence, and I think a few mistakes can lead to 1,000 mistakes.
Yeah.
No confidence, you're constantly getting slammed in the media, you're constantly getting slammed by pundits and fans. I think it will affect, and it does seem to affect the guy, because he always seems to be he's trying to do too much. That was showcased in the Liverpool game, because he was trying to come out too much and win the ball. So it was like, Mendy, because I'm thinking him. Kepa done really well there, but it wasn't working out for him. He was like a couple of seconds too slow, and I think it was early on in the game. Even out of Salah, who took it round him, and it was nearly
he put it back in, and then it hit off Christensen.
It was good defending, to be fair, and then it was similar at the red card, which you touched on earlier, Scott, with Christensen. Again, he was a few seconds off, but he was charging out because he wanted to make that last ditch challenge, which Christensen to grab Manny and pull him down.
Yeah.
So I think if he goes somewhere else and he just gets that wee bit of confidence back, he could show that he is a great keeper.
Like, if he went back to Spain, like, I know the rumours are always there, like, Black's going to leave Atletico, but, like, if he actually did and he went to Atletico Madrid, then he could probably thrive.
So here's the thing, though. He's still really young, though, isn't he, Kepa?
Yeah, he's like 22 or something.
23, yeah. One of them.
Yeah, he's real young.
If they've got Mendy in, maybe he gets rotated and they bring Kepa in the cup games and things, and he tries to slowly work his way back up. Because what's the chances they actually sell him if they're spending 70-odd million on him? You probably don't sell him. They probably keep him. And
I think it's
the same with Maguire.
Justify having an £80 million player on the bench with the wages that he's bringing in. How do you sell that to Abramovich?
Willie Caballero was doing really well at one point, but then I'm pretty sure, like, Frank got told, right, he was like 75 million. You kind of need to play him.
I suppose, but they could keep him and rotate him, and hopefully his confidence comes back and he becomes a better long-term investment. Because if they sell him, it's going to be for a reduced price, so either way they're losing money. It makes no sense to keep him and try and give him a bit of a break and rotate him into lesser important games, like the smaller teams in the league or the cup games or something.
Yeah.
Try and build his confidence back. You can still you could potentially still get £75 million worth of use of him.
Yeah, like if he did have that confidence, maybe he would have shot off towards the ball that second or two quicker, and he might have got it.
It's that way. It's second guessing yourself. If you make a few mistakes, you're worried about coming out in case you make another. Or if you've already made that mistake once in the game, you do worry about making it again.
Yeah, and that's not like exclusive to like kind of lesser keepers. Like Alisson was like hit quite bad because of the the Charity Shield. No, the Community Shield. Yeah, like he didn't save a single penalty in that penalty shootout. But then he saved one against Chelsea, and you could see it in his face. He was like so happy with himself. So it's not exclusive to like lower keepers or whatever, because the best still rely on the confidence.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all grew up watching Buffon and Iker Casillas and my main man Oliver Kahn. Now, they were only 10 out of 10s every game. I mean, Kahn and Buffon, they made mistakes. Form was a funny thing, man. Just because you play a few bad games doesn't mean you're a bad player, innit?
Yeah.
Like your form, nobody can be a 10 out of 10 every game. Like, you know what I mean? It's just not possible.
That's true.
There's a good saying that I like to use, though, is form is temporary, class is permanent. And I think for a lot of players, you do see that, and I think a lot of people like to get caught up in hype trains.
Exactly.
And a hype train can go either way.
Most of it is the pundits, because if you have like 3 bad games in a row, they will just like go at you like a hawk.
I think the issue with that is a lot of the time the games are shit, and the pundits need to justify an hour worth of them talking, so they just they just pick it in,
Yeah, because the analysis is getting longer and longer after games now.
And there's players like Jamie Redknapp, and you're see if
you've got something against him.
No, I quite like him, but I think he's quite harsh sometimes as a pundit. And it's like, what were they saying about you? You spent 90% of your career fucking injured.
I think with Jamie Redknapp, because he's on panels with like Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher and that, and he's maybe not as good a pundit as them. So I think he tries to overcompensate.
I agree with that. It's like a complex thing. It's like they're all trying to show that they've got this in-depth football analogy to kind of justify them being there, and it's like, no, you're there because you're a professional football player and you know the game. Just call the game how you see it. You don't need to go in massive depth on things and try and overcomplicate it, because that's what you're doing, and you try and do that to showcase that players aren't playing as well, so people at home go, oh, I think Kepa's shite, so I believe you. Well done, Jamie, you done well there.
Aye, you're right. And not just pundits trying to be overly intelligent seeming, but like modern fans have got such short attention spans, I think. If somebody plays 3 or 4 bad games, they're automatically terrible. It's like, no. And it's not just in football either. We'll probably touch on it at some point, but it's the same in fighting.
Aye.
Somebody like has a few bad losses, and then they're automatically, there has been. People, it's Twitter, isn't it? People like to be all hyped up on Twitter and feel like they're part of something.
And it's because it's a bit like what I said about the pundits as well. Like, a lot of people like to piggyback off what they said as well. So they're like, I also think he's useless. So then they can just get gratification for other people that believe the same, and you're like, fuck off.
Yeah. People like to make fun of Souness, like going after Pogba all the time. But like, to be fair, like, what's Pogba doing?
Right.
Like,
see,
what's he doing to kind of counteract what Souness is saying?
Literally nothing. I said this last week. Pogba's done nothing for 4 years. I defy anybody to tell me different. That's why I don't like him. It's not because he's flashy haircuts or any of that stuff. I mean, he's not my sort of guy because of that. But that's not why I dislike him. I dislike him.
Yeah.
He was brought in for a fortune, and he has done nothing for 4 years. We've had 4 years of just, Pogba is great when he tries. So, is he? Somebody tell him that. Because he's no fucking thing.
And I'm sure that's Souness's like opinion as well.
Yeah, probably.
He sees Pogba as this like big superstar who came in for mega money, and yet he's not doing anything. Like there was in last week's Man United game, Pogba tried to do some like around the corner pass to Fernandes. It got caught by one of their Crystal Palace player, and Pogba just kind of did this turn, but he took like a full 20 seconds to turn, and that Palace player was just gone. He just didn't have that kind of, I'm going to press you and get that ball back from my mistake.
So did we just get to Chelsea in Blair's list?
Aye, we did.
Right.
Because I made some caveats about how the team needs to gel, and then we started talking about Kepa for like 20 minutes. Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, and then I got my fucking head is saying Man United because they were third. But God damn it, they're bad though. I'm mad on Tottenham, maybe. Bale's there. Bale come back. Tottenham.
Does Bale make Tottenham a top 4 team now?
He's better than everybody else they've got.
He is better than everyone now.
I don't know if they're not automatically a top 4 team.
Like their defense is still their defense is probably as bad as United's.
They never replaced. Who was the two that left? Their great partnership was Vertonghen and Alderweireld, wasn't it?
Yeah.
One left or
Toby's still there, but like
Vertonghen
left.
Vertonghen and Alderweireld is Tottenham's Vidic and Ferdinand.
Yeah.
They never replaced that partnership, similarly to how we did.
And like Ben Davies is all right on the left, but like I know you haven't seen the All or Nothing Tottenham, but there's a bit in it when Danny Rose comes into Mourinho's office and he's like, "Gaffer, why are you not playing me? I'm really good." He's like, "You were really good in training, but then I played you against Liverpool and you were shit. So you don't deserve to play." And he's like, "Oh no!" Like he's going on as if he's like prime Maldini. He's just not. And there's a bit later on, and he's talking about Newcastle and who else was it? Maybe Sheffield were in for him. No, Bournemouth. But Bournemouth didn't want to buy at the end of the season. And he asks Daniel Levy, have you heard anything from Milan? Like, are you joking? One of the Milan teams.
That's not it.
No. I think he was trying to talk about Eriksen's move to Milan.
Aye.
City, I'm unsure in the order there. Chelsea, and I'm gonna say United because they always creep up somehow. They're always there.
Are they though? Because the average position for United post Ferguson is 6th.
But the last few years have been there.
Aye.
United do this thing where like they kind of like boost at the end, as if like they take the middle part of the season to be like, "Hey, board, look how bad we are," and then they kind of get some pride back at the end.
They try at the end.
Yeah.
My heart's saying United for 4th, but
I'll put them in.
I don't know.
Tough pick.
I think
I'd say same as you. Liverpool City top 2. I don't know which order. Chelsea and either Arsenal or Everton for 4th.
Right, Everton.
Arsenal.
Right, Arsenal are top of the league, I think, right now.
Arsenal always start really well though.
Yeah.
Aye.
Watch them come January.
Yeah.
That's Arsenal's thing. They play really well for like 5 months.
I still think Arsenal should have bought like a left winger, like that Alan Saint-Maximin that I put in the perfect window.
I think Arsenal should not have a long history of selling their best players to their rivals. It's very strange to me. They sell all their best players. Usually,
I don't think that. Most of those good players went to you.
I know, but it was bad business when they appeared.
It was bad business.
William's a good signing for them, I reckon. Especially on a free.
I think for a rotation, definitely, because he's like 32 now and he's kind of slowing down, but he is good. I'll give you that.
He's got more talent than what they had for that position. But he's not a long-term signing.
No.
The thing about them is not only do they always sell their biggest stars to their rivals, but they never replace them with anybody.
No.
They still haven't replaced Thierry Henry.
Like, it was a shock when they bought Lacazette and Aubameyang.
Aubameyang is great though. Him signing a new contract is going to be big for like the Arsenal fans.
Yeah.
And they finally got a good goalkeeper, Ben Leno.
Oh, Ben Leno's great.
For years,
Martinez is quite good as well.
they're selling him.
He's moved on. He
left.
Where is he?
Went to, where did he go?
Is it like Villa or something?
Aye, it's one of the shitey wee teams. At the
Yeah.
moment. Well, all the best will in the world to the Aston Villa fans, but one of them weird teams. But for years, they always had just these terrible goalkeepers, man. Like Fabianski and the other one.
Chesney was awful for them.
Wait, one of them's at Juventus now, isn't it?
Yeah, Chesney's at Juventus.
Aye, Chesney's doing really well over there.
Yeah. Chesney said, they said I was terrible at Arsenal, but I'm keeping Buffon out of the team. Buffon's like 40 years old.
He's older than that. He's like 41. He's 40s. He's not just 40. The man is in his 40s.
He's in his 40s.
And if it was me, I would still be playing him because he's better than Chesney. Goalkeepers are a different breed, man. When we had Van der Sar, he was like 41 before he retired. And he still was winning the league. He was still the best keeper in the league. He aged fucking backwards, man, Van der Sar.
The thing with goalkeepers is they can read the game better as they get older. So if you position yourself correctly, it doesn't matter how high you can jump or how fast you are. You can just read it, and because you've only got such a small space to work in, you'll be fine.
It's amazing how many keepers consistently play into a high level up to that age. Like Oliver retired at 38 and he was still probably the best keeper in the world. I think Geary retired, Bayern won the doubles or something. It was brilliant.
Did anyone watch the UFC over the weekend?
No.
Read up on it? No, it was pretty good, to be fair. See for that, it was like one of those. It's not like, see, like you get the numbered UFC events, which is like the big events. It was
yeah,
one of
then
those,
you get like the fight weeks or whatever.
Aye, like the fight nights. It was one of them. It was, see, for a fight night, it was actually pretty stacked.
Was it Covington and Woodley?
Aye.
That last one.
I think I'm speaking for all mixed martial arts fans here when I say I really do hope it's Woodley's last fight. Like, I don't know how much more I can watch him completely disregard what his coaches are saying. Because he's trained under Duke Rufus, who's one of the best trainers in the fucking game, and he's said the whole fight, Duke Rufus is saying, right, push forward, use your jab, use your combinations. And Woodley was shit fear to get taken down by Covington. Don't know why. Woodley's like a very high level fucking wrestler. So he just backed up the whole fight with his arse up against the cage. And I was like, the man is not going to bum you. Like, you're not in the prison showers. Like, you're not in the prison showers. Go forward, use your power. Because, to be fair, he swung, I think it was like an overhand left early on in the first round and get taken down from it. So since then, he was shit scared and just sat with his big ass up against the fucking cage. And you're like, come on, this has been about what? You've not had a good fight in your last 6 or... I tell a lie. His last good fight was Darren Till, who he absolutely...
you're not stopping him.
Oh, he fucking destroyed them. It wasn't even competitive, which was quite a shame, because I quite like Darren Till.
I like Darren Till.
Then before that, he fought Damien Maya, which the fight was shit. And then he had 2 fucking shit fights against Stephen Thompson as well. But his last 3 fights, they've been 5 rounds, so 25 rounds. He's not won 1 round. 25. So it's because he get absolutely battered off Kamaru Usman, and then get battered off Gilbert Burns, and then get battered off Covington. After spending the whole time saying that he's going to make racists catch the fade, and made us think that the Woodley of old was going to come back and punch this little dweeb into another dimension, but it didn't happen. He got my hopes all up. I was sitting there, prized, ready. I watched it in the morning because I can't be bothered staying up to 5 o'clock anymore with my rolling bait, my coffee, just to be disappointed.
There's the thing, do you remember that? Sitting up till like 5 in the morning to watch fights and wrestling events.
Thank God for recording.
Like WrestleMania, and I was like 6 or 7 hours.
Aye, a complete shite as well.
Oh man, I can't. Like, I try and watch wrestling now, but I just can't do it. I can't do it.
I haven't watched wrestling in months.
The
Royal Rumble with the last time. I'll be 29 next month, and physically incapable of staying up to that sort of time to watch things. I know that's not even really old. I've just aged badly.
It's that way as well. It's a long time you sit up, and it ruins your Sunday. Because if you're sitting up to 6 o'clock to watch fights, going to your bed at half 6, sometimes 7 o'clock if it's a big fight, and you get all excited. I just remember when I was watching Conor versus Khabib, I was absolutely shattered. When the fight was on, so I was like all drowsy away, and I could hardly remember most of the fight until Khabib leaped over the cage and kicked Dylan Dennis, and they all started fighting outside the cage. And then I got a new lease of life. I was up and I was shouting at the telly. So I was calling them all the bastards because I quite like Dylan Dennis. But if you are wanting to get back into the UFC, there's a guy that you need to look out for. His name is, I think it's Kazmak Shimanov.
Right.
It's a very difficult name to pronounce. He's Swedish, but he's had 3 fights in about 66 days. But his first 2 fights, it was like 10 days apart or something, and it was 2 different weight classes. Like, this guy, I'm no one for hype trains, but this man is a monster. He's only received about 2 punches, and he's flung about 100 odd.
Oh my God.
He's like Khabib, but with better stand up.
This is why I feel quite bad when we get to this section, because you're like a huge MMA fan. Me and Scott's like a casual, and I hadn't watched it in years.
Yeah.
But you're like on these big passionate rants, and I'm like, it's a shame that any of us know what he's talking about, because you can just section here. What's the last I actually watched? I think it was Brock Lesnar and Mark Hunt, whenever that was.
That was years ago.
That was you, I don't know.
Because I like me some Brock Lesnar. But other than that, I just haven't watched it.
When was DC Jones 2? Was that before or after Conor Khabib?
No idea.
Before.
Yeah, I think the last one I watched properly was Conor Khabib.
Damn it, that was a good card as well. Because you had, it was before, was it Tony and Pettis? It was before that.
Yeah.
It was absolute bloodbath.
Oh yeah,
it was. But Cerrone was fighting at the weekend.
Oh, I saw that as well.
His was a draw. But it was weird. Like, it was a draw because in the first round the guy kept eye poking him, so lost a point, and then they both won a round after that because he did get done in the first round. So it was a guy Nico Price he was fighting, and Nico Price was hammering him in the first round until Cerrone started before Price started poking the eyeballs. But no, that's him on about. He hasn't won his last 5 fights, Cerrone. So it's not looking great for him.
I don't mean to change the subject entirely, but I'm looking at my Man United app here on my phone, and it's not looking good. 48% possession for United, 1 shot on target to Brighton's 5.
I've got an eye on it right now, and Pogba has been off. And I don't mean to pick on the boy, but he's been. He's not very good, is he?
It's on behind me, but I've not really been watching it.
See, if anybody's listening to us is wondering why these two are watching United and Atomni, it's because I've not got a telly in my office. I record these in my wee cave, my wee study, and I don't pay for Sky Sports or BT, so I can't. I've got the app. I follow them on the app now.
Yeah, he can't bring himself to watch.
I'm not ignoring what you're saying about Tyrone Woodley. I was just looking at the app to see how we were doing. And
no, it's all right. So a lot of times, but as MMA, I do kind of get that I'm gonna. It's got to be quite one-sided.
Up for 46% possession to 48. Hey.
Yeah, but it's still not looking good for you.
Aye.
Like Brian are all over yous. I'm just going to spend this whole time going,
did you start the Conor McGregor stuff on Twitter last night?
No.
I did. I didn't read the full thing because he put like a full novel out. But
who's the attack? What's he done?
He wants to fight Manny Pacquiao.
What's the attack? What's he done?
He wants to fight Pacquiao in boxing. That's apparently going to be his next fight.
It's a fair assumption for me to make, Scott. Normally when he's trending, he's attacked somebody.
Yeah, or thrown a dolly through a window.
Or is accused of attacking somebody.
Aye. He's going to try and fight Manny Pacquiao, which is just bringing more of a circus round about boxing, especially when you tie it in to the reports last week that Floyd Mayweather will be fighting Logan Paul in a boxing match, which is, I don't know how that fight. I've been trying to think about this fight all week, and I'm thinking, how can they sanction this fight? Look, Logan Paul is about 200 pounds. He's fucking massive. And Floyd Mayweather is about the same weight as a Bobby.
Robert, English friends are Bobby's Scottish slang, like Tadger. Tadger is also Scottish slang, isn't it? So,
penis.
Penis.
It's very.
But no, it is they're two way different weight classes. Logan Paul is huge. He's like 6'3" or something, 230 pounds.
He's a big man, but look, we touched on this last week as well. But obviously, the viewers at home, I don't understand why boxers want to just fight celebrities in boxing matches. Like, why not make it a bit fair? See if you're wanting to prove you're the best fighter. Like Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul, they should have an MMA match. Because neither of them have ever fought professional MMA, so that sense it would be fair. And also, Floyd's one of the best boxers in the world, so he's got great hands. But Logan he was at a high level college wrestler. He was at Division 1 at Ohio State.
Should they not just stop all these stupid fights though?
Aye, in an ideal world.
It's ridiculous.
But I would like seeing a YouTuber like pin Floyd Mayweather doing and just do what he wants with him. I'd find that quite entertaining because I think boxing, a lot of boxing fans like to slag MMA and they like to slag the ground game, and I think it's that way. No, like, I don't think they understand that one of these guys. Let's see if you slag like they slag folk like Damien Maia. Let's see if Damien Maia gets you down, he can do whatever he wants to you. Like it's not even funny. Let's see if he wants
a snake, wasn't it?
Aye, let's see if he wants to choke you unconscious, he can choke you unconscious. If he wants to snap your arm like a twig, he can snap your arm like a twig. It's that way. There's so many more dimensions and so much more you need to be good at. But I think if they want to start making it more fair, see, rather than having one of the best boxers in the world batter a YouTuber, you're a bit like how skint are you, Floyd? Like, what are you spending your money on now?
Right. What do you think he does spend his money on? Because he's like a multi-millionaire, isn't he?
Not strippers.
He's got a really bad spending problem. But that's why he keeps coming back every now and then to do these huge fights. Like see, like with Conor McGregor, it's because he's skint.
What is he spending the money on though? Genuinely, is it strippers?
Massive cars, like really expensive cars, houses, nights out. He's got a team of fucking bodyguards that just follow him about 24/7.
That's quite. That a professional fighter has a team of bodyguards. I think that's quite funny.
Aye, and he's got like code names for them. Like, see if he wants them to do stuff. So I remember it was during one of the press conferences with Conor McGregor, and he was like Form Ultron. Like, he shouted at the man, and all these like, hench guys started circling Conor McGregor and like formed a shield about him. I was like, what the hell is going on here?
We should get in on this, right? Because this is the age of these stupid fights where internet people can fight professional athletes and make millions and millions of dollars. So what we should do, I think, is we should like or cross it over into wrestling or something. We should try and angle for like a WrestleMania match or something.
I've already requested to fight Joey Barton.
I'd watch that.
Tell him we're in underground. Like I'll fight Floyd Mayweather, but I don't think that's a draw because nobody knows who I am. Like I'm no Jake Paul's like a famous person, or Logan Paul, whichever one of them it is. He's a famous person. I'm just some big bald person and nobody knows. I'll fight Floyd Mayweather though. I'll take my kicking for 50 million. That's fine.
Mate, I'd take a kicking for 50.
And it's that way, like Floyd Mayweather, he's been fighting so long that his hands are all kind of fucked, so he's not going to hit you too hard.
And I've got a really big head as well. He's
had so many hand operations, I think he just keeps breaking it.
Do you remember what Conor was saying in those press conferences? Oh, your hands get cold, sore in the cold.
He's got frail hands. See, like coming up about ridiculous things that we hear in a press conference, it just gets me back to the fight of the weekend with Tyron Woodley. He was going on about Kobe Covington, right? And he was going on about his endurance, and he's like, yeah, your endurance won't save you. You can't put your chin on a treadmill. And I was listening, and I was like, I think that's the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard in my life. You can't put your chin on a treadmill.
On this, I think the funniest thing I ever heard in like a fight build-up was years ago, and it was Michael Bisping and somebody. Was it Vitor? I think it might have been Vitor. And it was some South American anyway that was a big, like Jesus, like a Christian. And I think it was Vitor, right? And he's like standing on the stage posing for the weigh-in. And just somewhere off camera you can hear Bisping going, "There is no Jesus! There is no Jesus!" Which I thought was brilliant. That really thick English accent it has. There's no Jesus!
Because the Brazilians it's stinking. Because I remember Conor McGregor was saying to Jose Aldo, it was if this was another time, I would ride horseback into your favela and kill everyone who wasn't fit to work. But then
that is no true, is it? Because if this was 1,000 years ago, Conor McGregor's still tiny. He would be some big Viking warlord's pet. If Conor was about in like a medieval Ireland, the Vikings would have came and stole him and like just did what they wanted to him. You see, it's really like Francis Ngannou was to say that if this was 1,000 years ago, I'd come into your village and murder everybody and be your new king. I'm like, aye, I can see that. That would happen. You're huge and scary. Imagine Conor McGregor riding at you on horseback. There'd been nothing intimidating about that at all. Because he's tiny. He really is tiny. Like, I mean, he would obviously.
He's like 5'7" or something, isn't he?
5'7".
5'8".
I think he's at 5'10".
No, he's weird. No,
he's at 5'9", 5'10".
He's still wee anyway.
Yeah, so it's like the average height.
Yeah, he's still not a big guy. And he weighs truly like 170 pounds, and he made his career fighting folk 30 pounds lighter than him. So if he was to come riding in at you, obviously he would kick fuck at me. That's not what I'm getting at. But if it was 1,000 years ago, would you rather fight him on horseback or Francis Ngannou? You know what I mean? If Conor was invading your village, you wouldn't be terribly terrified about that.
Oh my god. Francis Ngannou with some speed of a horse.
Right, exactly. Francis Ngannou comes wading into your tune on horseback with like a flail or something. People are like, right. These are the times somebody found me a priest. This is the end. But if Conor McGregor was to do it, I'm not saying that.
You're not seeing the intimidation. I think he was just saying it as a joke. To be fair, I don't think he was. I don't think he will be riding about Rio anytime soon on horseback.
I know.
Aye.
I know. You know what I mean, though. He's not very frightening long.
No.
Whereas Ngannou is.
But I must say, like, have you seen the pictures recently of Israel Adesanya?
No.
Oh, I saw a bit of his face-off with Costa.
I think he looks quite frightening with a skinhead.
Yeah.
Guys, but that fight's
He's kind of got that psycho look about him because he's got those eyes.
And I think he is a bit of a psycho as well, because he was talking and he was in Nigeria and he was going through, like, because that's where his family originates from. That's where he was born in Nigeria. So he's like cutting about. I don't want to call it favelas because that's only real, but it's the same similarity, and they're ran by like drug lords over there. And he was saying, like, he was walking about and he met this guy who was like quite heavy, like quite big and quite heavy, and he was being quite intimidating to Israel Adesanya, but Israel was only cutting about with like a couple of his pals, so he was like, right, I'll leave it, and he went away, and he was at, but then the macho thing started kicking in on him, and he was actually the next day he was cutting about the same area with like a team of guys with AK-47s. He's got his tap off with a big gold chain, with a big gun. He's like, right, boys, what we fucking saying?
He's went away to visit his family and somehow turned into a Far Cry villain.
I think what he's attempting to like have make gyms and all that because they believe that the Nigerians, they're going to like take over the UFC. There's a lot of absolute specimens over there, but they just don't have the facilities or the equipment to like favela, like push themselves into stardom.
Yeah, they're tough people, most of the Africans, aren't they? Because I mean, there's the heat. Working under that heat all day, you're going to be a hard bastard after that.
And like the Nigerians, especially, like they are such an intelligent people. Like, have you ever had an internet scam that wasn't a Nigerian? But has ever been this not a Nigerian? They basically invented internet scams. Which, oh god, years later, people are still getting caught out by, so they're very fucking intelligent.
They've been going on for years now, haven't they, these scams?
Aye, and folks still fall for them.
You're somehow in some
they were happening in, what's it called, Only Fools and Horses as well, and that was like in the 70s.
Yes.
Getting lips with the Nigerian prince saying they'll give them 300 million if they give them 80 quid.
Somehow you found yourself in a Nigerian king's will. Somehow, despite the fact your living was blown, you've made it into a king's will for a different continent. Send a £80 registration fee. Receive your 100 million in rupees or gems or whatever. Then they rinse your bank out.
In gems?
I don't know what a Nigerian king would trade in. But I don't know what their currency is.
Probably people.
People.
So I imagine most warlords as people, as like the currency.
People and bullets.
But Israel Adesanya, he's got a huge fight on tonight. He fights Paulo Costa, which is, if you want to get back into UFC, watch tonight, because it's going to be absolute chaos, and it's one of those fights where you just go, who the fuck knows? because either of them could win.
Oh, fuck me, it's 1-0 to Brighton. Sorry. Tragic.
Aye, so anyone at home, if you want to watch the UFC, please watch UFC 253, Paulo Costa versus Israel Adesanya, which it's one of those fights where you don't know who's going to win. Like Israel, he probably is a better. He's probably he's a better striker. He's got more technique. But Paulo Costa looks like he's chiselled for fucking stone, and he's massive and hits very hard, which we've seen, especially in the Kelvin Gastelum fight where Israel fought him, that he can get wobbled. So it begs the question: like, can he take a punch for Costa, and can Costa really connect? But when they done their face-off, I thought it was really interesting because it's something that whenever I've been asked about this fight, it is something I have mentioned. But neither of them have ever attempted a takedown in their UFC career, which, when you think of that, is a bit mad. So people think that Paulo Costa can't grapple, but he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and so he came out with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and used that as a ploy to fuck with Israel because he gave him a white belt, and it makes you think, is he maybe considering taking this to the ground, or?
Yeah, so Costa threw the white belt.
Aye. So Costa came out with his black belt because it's something that is always overlooked with Paulo Costa, because the man's never attempted to take down in his life, and he's got great striking, but he's also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So that will always play a factor if the fight decides to go one way. But another fight to look out for on that card, it's Dominic Reyes and Jan Blachowicz. I probably pronounced that wrong, and Susanna will absolutely lynch me for it because she's Polish as well, so she'll go, "Oh, that's not how it's said." So Susanna, if you're listening, fuck you. Fuck you, your country.
Not only Brock Lesnar, Joey Barton, you've taken on the whole of Poland.
But aye, it's a new dawn for the UFC with this fight. It signals perhaps an end to John Jones's reign in the light heavyweight division, which is crazy in my opinion. It's mad. It's going to be weird having a champion. It's not John Jones. He's
defending his belt, or
he's vacated. He's got up to heavyweight.
Really? Okay.
Aye, so having a champion, it's not John, because that's it. They're fighting for the vacant light heavyweight title tonight. So having a champion, it's not John Jones in the light heavyweight division. It's got to be strange because he's been the champion for so long, and he's been
in jail.
No yet. He's winning. He's calling out Brock Lesnar, and he's calling out Francis Ngannou as well.
Oh my god!
And Steve Miocic.
But how likely is him and Brock? Brock's been retired for years now. I don't know why they always do that. They always call out folk that are retired.
It's the name in it, but I don't think it's a fight Brock Lesnar's going to take.
He's retired. He's not coming back.
But if he did come back, I don't think it'd be a fight he would take, because I think he knows the outcome of that fight. I think he knows he would get his arse kicked at that. I know John Jones perhaps weighs 20 pounds less than him, but the man's skill level is far beyond that of Brock Lesnar, and he would kick the shit out of him. And I'm sorry, Brock Lesnar, if you're listening and you're an avid fan of the show, but I've just got to go in my gut, and I think John Jones, his skill level's far too high, and people can say that size plays a factor, and it might, but also skill plays a factor, and it's all-round skill. John Jones is just so much better, and I think he's going to be a real fucking demon at heavyweight.
Well, allegedly, I don't know who it was that said it. I think it was Dana White. It said that Brock is quoted as saying Jones is the only fight he would come back for. So, and that's for Dana White. So I don't think he's right.
But I think it's that way, saying something and doing it is different. I think Brock, once a fight looks like it's becoming reality, it might.
It's a money issue more than anything else. Brock is like the second highest paid fighter they've ever had or something. He's in that top 3 with him and Conor and Ronda.
Aye.
Will they pay him what he wants? Jones is a better fighter, but how does he win that fight? Does he knock him out? Because Shane Carwin couldn't have knocked Brock Lesnar out. And I would be willing to bet that Shane Carwin hits much harder than John Jones ever will. Mark Hunt couldn't have knocked Brock Lesnar out. And
Cain Velasquez knocked him out.
Never know.
Well, he TKO'd him. Alistair Overeem TKO'd him.
He's been ref stopped. He's never been sparked unconscious though.
Aye.
TKO maybe. Yeah.
So that's a possibility. Or he could also outscore him. What he's done his last 3 or 4 fights.
He's in sin though.
Which has become a bit of John Jones' style, but he's become a bit of I hate using this word, but he's become a bit of a points fighter, where he knows what to do to win a fight. Like, he knows if he's just moving forward a bit more, that he'll win the fight, and we've seen that against Dominic Reyes. Like, Dominic Reyes was landing probably the more effective shots, but John Jones won the fight purely on forward pressure. And Brock Lesnar's last fight was against Mark Hunt. And Mark, no disrespect to Mark Hunt, he's a legend. He's a legend of the sport, but he was also in his 40s when he fought Brock Lesnar and had about 5,000 fights. So it's safe to say he was a bit past it when he fought Brock Lesnar.
They were both in their 40s for that fight. And Mark Hunt had won like his last 3 getting into that or something, all by knockout. So heavyweights are like goalkeepers, they go a lot longer.
I agree with that.
And Overeem battered Brock Lesnar, but Brock had been out at that point for like a year, 2 years. He nearly died of diverticulitis. And Alistair Overeem was like one of the best heavyweights that's ever lived.
No, that was no disrespect to Alistair Overeem.
Right. Not just in terms of MMA, but he was a K1 champion. And he just, like, Brock had no business trying to strike with Alistair Overeem, you know what I mean? So, like, that's the prevailing opinion. A lot of folks say that John Jones would come in and run Brock Lesnar over. And I don't doubt that he might win, because like, he's technically a better fighter, and he could outpoints him. But he's not going to steamroll him, though. He just isn't. Because it's never happened before. And Brock has fought bigger, stronger folk than John Jones, and they never steamrolled him.
Cain Velasquez no absolutely maul him.
He did, aye. But it was the same deal. That was when Brock had been out when his injuries. He had that disease, remember? He got
he's been out for about 3 years or something since the Mark Hunt fight, which he was just to the gills on, may I add. So I don't think that really counts.
He never tested positive for anything. Well, no, he did. He tested positive.
And then it's no contest.
Aye, they changed the result, but after he tested positive, he said it's not a steroid, it's some nasal spray or something. And then the test came back that it was some fucking nasal spray for a disease he had or something. So a steroid, it was allegedly, it was some sort of spray for hay fever.
Yeah, we're not going to really know.
We're not going to slag Brock Lesnar off for drug abuse, and when it comes to John Jones. Aye, but
to remember though, he was out twice with diverticulitis, and the 2 losses, the 2 beatings he took were during that time. He went out for a while, and then came back and fought Cain, and then he got really sick again and went away, and came back and fought Alistair and get battered. When he came back and fought Mark Hunt, he had been clean of the disease for years, and he leathered him. So I think, to be fair, Velasquez and Overeem did maul him, and might still have mauled him if he was completely healthy. But for both of their fights, he was dying of a life-threatening disease. That's a thing to remember. And then every fight previous to that, his debut with Frank Mir, he battled everybody that he fought. So I mean, it's fair.
I think, see, if you take a fight, I don't think injuries should come into it. I think, see, if you're healthy enough, if you're willing to take a fight, I think you should take the. If you're willing to take the fight, I think the fight should be taken on the merits of the fight. I don't think you should take a fight and go, but I was no well, or I did this wrong, meant that. I don't think it should be quite a factor, because you knew everything going into the fight. So if you weren't 100%, and no one is really 100% going into a fight, like, let's be serious, you've just had your arse kicked for about 3-4 months during sparring. So you never are 100% get in, but I don't think injuries and what's happened previous should come in. I feel that's it gets a bit cop-outy.
No, well, again, 2 points to that is that A, he wasn't injured, he had a life-threatening disease, and he genuinely nearly died.
It's under the same bracket, innit?
B, at the time with the Cain fight, he hadn't been diagnosed yet. He didn't know he was dying of a life-threatening disease. He just didn't feel well. So it's not like he hurt his knee and then was like, I got battered, but I had a sore knee. He genuinely nearly died. And he was fatigued. I mean, that's a big thing. That's a big factor to take into account.
Why take fights in?
Because he was paying the bills. I don't know. He likes money. He just knew.
I think if you're taking the fight, you should just take the fight and just deal with the consequences, deal with the result. I don't think.
Generally speaking, I agree with you. If you've got like a tweaked knee or you broke your toe or something stupid like that, but the man nearly died. I feel like that's a factor that needs to be considered. He got a literal foot of his intestine removed. He nearly died. I feel like that's something that has to be taken into consideration here. It's not just an injury.
I do, but I think it's that way. If you're well enough to take the fight to begin with, I think.
Right, but again, he hadn't been diagnosed yet. He didn't know. He just knew he didn't feel very well and thought he could fight through it. It wasn't until not long after that fight he got hospitalised and nearly croaked. He just felt a bit sick and thought he could fight through it. And to be fair, he's never made this excuse. It's me making this excuse for him. I'm like, the man nearly died. The two fights that he got battered in, he had nearly died before and after. You know what I mean? And when you watch him against the Shane Carwin fight, is the best example of what he can do. Shane Carwin, up until that point, had beaten everybody in like a minute or something. He knocked everybody out. He had like 7 straight knockout victories in a minute or less. He was like the first in Ghana. You know what I mean? And Brock took every shot that he had and then battered him. I remember that fight really clearly. Shane Carwin was on top of him, punching him in the face. And Brock still managed to get back up and win.
That was the one where Shane gassed himself on top of him, but wasn't it? He wasn't picking his shots.
Shane
he was fighting reckless.
He was, but that's the same style he had fought everybody with. He got them done and just punched fuck at them till they gave up. And Brock Lesnar never gave up. That was the difference.
But I think your fight IQ needs to come into play there. I think if you're on top of somebody and you're landing these shots and you know most of them aren't dealing that much damage, I think you need to start realising and trying to save your gas tank and maybe pick them a bit better.
Generally, you're right. But the thing about that fight is their shots were landing and they just never knocked Brock out the way they knocked everybody else out. You can go back and watch the fight on YouTube. They're all quite clearly connecting. Just Brock's head is so damn big. I don't know what the problem is. They just want to knock him out. So John Jones can outpoint him and he can beat him. But this idea that he's going to go in and steamroll him, I'm not having it. Because it's never been done before when Brock's completely healthy. So I'm just not seeing it. You know what I mean? I know Frank tapped him out in his debut and he was healthy then. That's different. He never gets steamrolled. Brock was beating the shit out of Frank Mir. And Frank Mir managed to get his ankle or his taser or whatever it was he tapped him with. But the idea that when he's completely 100% fit that anybody could just run him over is fucking ludicrous, I think. Because it's never been done before.
Has he fought arguably the best fighter that the UFC's ever seen before? I don't think he'll run him over. I don't think I said that, but I think he's never. I don't think he's.
You said there would be no contest. Jones would kick fuck at him.
He would. But that doesn't mean that he's got to steamroll him. I'm just saying I don't see Brock Lesnar winning. That's how I don't see it as a con. But no contest that John Jones will win, in my opinion. But
I think there's every chance that Brock Lesnar can win. There's every chance he can win that fight. If it was, but the man's retired. He's not going to come back and fight him.
But he was happy to come back and fight Daniel Cormier.
We don't know that that's the case. That was a publicity stunt to get a better contract out of Vince McMahon. That's what Brock Lesnar does. That's what he's all about. And you can see it now that he's out of contract again. He's having meetings with AEW. Now the man is not going to go to AEW. He's angling for a bit of this. He was never going to fight Daniel Cormier. I mean, let's be real here. How many times has he said that? I'm going to go back to the UFC.
Right, he's came back a few times. That'd be ridiculous.
He's come back once for joining the WWE again, and it was a cross-promotion thing. He was still under contract with the WWE at the time, and he had a match a few months after that at SummerSlam. That Mark Hunt fight, that was part of his last contract. He wanted to go back and have one more fight in the UFC because he was healthy again. He wanted to get the one fight out of his system, and Mark Hunt's who they gave him. But since then, he's not went back. He's only been back once for he rejoined the WWE in 2012. And since then, he's done nothing but use Dana White as leverage. Dana White's been nothing but a wee baldy pawn in Brock Lesnar's scheme to make him. But he's never going to fight Daniel Cormier. He's never going to fight John Jones. He's just trying to fleece Vince McMahon for a bit more of this. And
I thought you said he would fight John Jones.
Allegedly, that's what he said to Dana White. I might come back. I might come back and fight him. How much are you offering? Then he tells Vince McMahon, Dana White's offering me this much to fight John Jones. What you going to give me to come back? That's all he's ever done.
And I think staying at the WWE probably makes more sense for Brock Lesnar.
Because he's the highest paid guy they've ever had.
That's not a dig at Brock Lesnar. It's not a dig. I think it's that way. Would you rather your head kicked in or take shots to the head, or would you rather pretend to take shots to the head? What's going to benefit your career in a long term? And I think if you can make more money in pro wrestling, I can understand why you definitely would do it.
He's the highest paid guy they've ever had, I think, or one of them. He's up there with like the Stone Colds and the Hulk Hogan's.
Yeah. I think for like contract wise, I think it's the highest paid.
The biggest contract.
I think it comes down more than just contracts. I think you need to consider your future. I think seeing like 10, 15 years time, where do you want to be? Do you want to be known as this wrestler, or do you perhaps want a possible CTE because you took a big uppercut for Francis Ngannou and you're now eating through a straw? I think it's a risk over reward. I think especially with MMA, like if you're there, you're known as a gladiator, you're this, you're that, and it flexes your ego. But you need to be kind of realistic. See, if you're going against these monsters, you need to face up to the fact that there's a possibility that the worst could happen. Like touch wood, it doesn't happen to Andy in there, but you seen the way Muhammad Ali went.
And 9 times out of 10, that assessment, anybody that's like followed Brock's career knows he only cares about one thing, and he's only ever cared about one thing. It's a bit of this money. He doesn't care about his legacy. He's never cared about his legacy. He cares about big fat contracts, and the proof is in the pudding. Because all these times he's teased that he would go back to the UFC. Vince McMahon then gave him a new 6-figure contract to work like 4 days a year. And now he's been
just do the big pay-per-views.
It is the big and a few appearances on Raw.
Yeah.
So now he's been documented as having spoke the guy that owns AEW.
Because Tony Khan.
Dana White knows he's not going to go back to the UFC. I don't think Dana White's playing anymore. I don't think he's going to like game it. And now he's talking about AEW, and Vince is not going to want Brock to go there. Literally everything, and I pay more attention to Brock because he's like one of my favourite wrestlers and one of my favourite fighters. And everything he's ever done is just to secure more money out of Vince McMahon, because he doesn't care about legacy or proving anything to anybody to himself. He's a genuine mercenary that only does what's best for his bank account.
They already maybe missed it for him going back to the NFL, but even then, he still got paid.
An example. That's the one why that wasn't the case. He just really wanted to try and be an NFL player for some reason. Maybe he's a big NFL fan. I don't know.
I think highest level NFL, the money you make there is ridiculous as well. Yeah. So it could be that, but
very well.
Yeah, like Tom Brady's a multi-millionaire.
He's the wrestling / fighting equivalent of the football player Hulk. He's a complete fucking mercenary that only cares about.
Oh yeah.
So Brock has no desire to have the fans see this big money fight. He is just using everybody else for leverage to get more money out of Vince McMahon, because he doesn't want to actually fight or work. He wants to work his 5 days a year that he does every year, and he knows that's the thing. You say risk v reward. It's more with Brock's point of view, like, how can I get paid the most for doing the least? That's his whole thing. And when you watch him come back to WWE since 2012, that's what he does. He works these contracts. He works like 5 matches a year, a few Raw appearances here and there, and he gets paid literally more than everybody else in the company for it.
It's that way as well. We need to take into consideration the man's age. Like he is in his 40s, so the reality is, why would he be working every week like some of the youngsters and fucking his body? Because again, it needs to be. You need to think more long term.
But even then, when he was young and in the WWE, he still hated it. He hated travelling. That's why he left.
He hated the travel. Yeah. And when he returned in 2012, he was in his 30s, and he still was like, right, he's no. The man's not worked a full schedule since 2004, and that's a fact. That's not even like a joke. That's a fact. He's only wrestled in Raw once in that whole time, if even then. When was his last match on Raw? 2004.
Oh Christ, I don't know.
If you can get away with it, why would you?
I'm not criticising.
That's such a good point. When was the last time you actually fought and it wasn't on a pay-per-view?
2004, I think. Well, no, he did that match on SmackDown with Kofi Kingston last year, didn't he? And he won
because he won the title.
He's Brock Lesnar's either a genius or he's got a great lawyer. Whoever it is that does his negotiations for him. It might be him personally, I don't know. But the runabout point is that he was never going to come back to fight Cormier or John Jones. That was his stunt for money.
I think that's got to come in I think, see the idea that he doesn't wrestle on any of the smaller shows and stuff like that. I know it's probably great for him, but how's that still marketable? Like, see, how do fans still lap this up that they want to see their champion, but their champion's never on the telly? So the championship belt's basically vacant. Nobody's essentially a champion.
Aye, that's a common criticism. But I always liked that because it felt special. Like the champion wasn't. It felt to me like he was a gladiator champion in ancient Rome. You didn't see him every week. He was hardly ever there, and he was like spoken about in hushed tones, like, "Oh, who's going to get the opportunity to wrestle Brock for the title? The man that beat the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak and that seemingly can't ever be beaten." It made the title seem a lot bigger. Remember that real hot streak he was on from 2014 to like 2016, when he was the champion for virtually that entire time. He beat the Undertaker at Mania. He ended the Undertaker's undefeated streak. And then he beat Cena at that SummerSlam for the title. And it was the most one-sided title fight you've ever seen. I mean, it's not a fight, wrestling match, you know what I mean?
No,
it was built, right, but the way it was booked, Cena got like one move in and Brock smacked for 12 minutes and then won the title. And went unbeaten on this whole run. And he was
can get away with that with Brock because it's believable.
That was the excuse. They could believe it because he's Brock Lesnar, he was a UFC champion. But when you say some people get bored of it, but I thought, and the numbers reflected the fact that people generally liked it because it was the biggest pay-per-view draw they had at that time. And whenever he was billed as defending the title, it was like, A, right, he beat the Undertaker's streak and then he mangled John Cena. A, who are they going to pit over him? Who could conceivably beat him? And B, didn't it feel just so much more special? You don't see the champion, you don't see the championship, but the guy that's holding the title is this like film villain for like a fantasy film or something.
Yeah, they built him like kind of a myth.
Aye, right. He became like the Mountain for Game of Thrones.
Like, like he didn't need to be the stories of him.
Exactly. He became like a living myth. And even now when he turns up, you're like, oh fuck, Brock Lesnar's here. Like,
I know. It's like an event.
Exactly. It's a marketable event. And the fact that he's been the biggest pay-per-view draw of the last decade, I mean, I think that's pretty much a published fact now. So they marketed him amazingly. And I think that's why he can demand such a salary, because even though like he's lost since, but even though whenever he wrestles, you're like, right, he's going to win this. Who's possibly going to pit him? And he beat everybody, by the way. He beat Cena, Taker, Roman, Seth, Bray Wyatt, like every other star that they had made. Oh, was fucking like, flattened them as better than that. And it was, as you said, Martin, it was believable because he's Brock Lesnar. Like you could see it. He's the biggest pay-per-view attraction WWE had in a long time. And they keep spending all that money on him and bringing him back because nobody else draws like Brock Lesnar does.
It's really funny. See, I think one year he had to do like 8 or 10 dates, like way more than his usual, like 5 or 6. And every time he would come to the ring, he was just furious. He was like, why am I even here?
Was that the year he wrestled Samoa Joe at Great Balls of Fire?
Oh, yeah. I think it was, yeah.
He beat the shit out of Samoa Joe. That was great. I love that. Even this year when he came into the Royal Rumble, he started the Royal Rumble this year, and he was already champion. So he did this. The gimmick was he wanted to see how long he could last or whatever, and he came in number 1 and he put the next 14 guys out, and it was amazing. Like he's just dancing in between. Then they would come in and he'd kick fuck out them and fling them away, and then he'd just go back to dancing. It's hilarious. And that wouldn't have worked with anybody else. They couldn't have put anybody else in that spot. It worked because he's got this aura of believability about him. Because he went to the UFC and he leathered everybody and he was the heavyweight champion. And he drew the most money they had ever had up until that point. Up until Ronda and Conor. They can records. Up until then, he had smashed everybody and drew the most money they had ever seen. He's a phenomenon. That's why I like him so much, I think.
I quite like that you mentioned Ronda there, because she doesn't seem to have that same persona in the WWE. Like, see, from what I've gathered by looking online, a lot of people think that's who's the Irish woman? Is it Sasha Banks?
Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch.
Becky Lynch. People genuinely think Becky Lynch would kick fuck at her.
She wouldn't though.
No. She wouldn't. No. That it's mental. But folk genuinely believe that. But you don't get anyone thinking that Randy Orton can kick fuck at Brock Lesnar.
Because they built her differently. She was the polar opposite, right? So Brock went away and got all this real life credentials because he was a champion. Ronda was obviously a champion before she was a wrestler. And then they made Brock like a myth. As Scott said, he only came in 4 or 5 times a year. But Ronda worked a full fucking schedule. She was there every day. She worked every pay-per-view. She worked every Raw. She cut all her own promos and things. And her matches were different in that she didn't just dominate every match she was in. Like the way they built Brock. Like Brock would let guys get 1 or 2 moves in, and then he just suplex of F5, get him out. The whole match is 3 minutes long. Ronda worked at least long 10, 15-minute matches where other folk were getting the offense. Yeah. So they didn't build her to be the killer that they should have done. They should have made Ronda the female Brock in WWE. And I was a fan of Ronda's run. I thought she was a really... Like, how good was she? Did you watch her debut at Mania when she teamed against the McMahon? How fucking good was she?
The McMahon.
The McMahon. Excellent worker.
I just think I was just speaking for what I've seen from fans' perspectives. That element of believability doesn't seem to be there with Ronda, like the same way it is with Brock. And it's like Ronda was at one point one of the best, was the best female mixed martial artist on the planet, and fucked everyone up.
Still my favourite women's fighter of all time, Ronda. That will never change. And it's because of everything that goes with it. When she's the first huge pioneer that they had. Alright, fair enough. Gina Carano was big before her in Strikeforce, Bellator, Invicta. Whatever company Gina Carano fought in. But Ronda was bigger in every way because she ended up overtaking Brock's record as the biggest pay-per-view draw they've ever had. And she was killing everybody in like a minute and a half. And it wasn't just nabodies, it was like Misha Tate and Carano and all these folk. And she was marketable. I'm not trying to sound like a sexist or anything, but marketability is better this. And Ronda's pretty. She's got the pretty look. You can put her in adverts, you can have her in films, because people want to look at it as well as enjoy her.
She did the magazines and everything, didn't she?
Exactly. She did Maxim, she did magazines. Because she's got the aesthetic look of her that a lot of the other ones, maybe, with the best in the world to them, didn't have. So not only was she a killer in the cage, she's an excellent speaker. Her interviews were always great, and she had this marketable look. You know the way they tried to make Paige Van Zandt as like the next big star?
Yeah.
Aye.
There's this marketability about her. It's the same.
You've hit the nail right in the head there, and I didn't want to cut you off when you were speaking, but when you were talking about marketability in the face, it was completely different to how she was perceived compared to Chris Cyborg. And
Exactly. Aye. Chris Cyborg, probably a better fighter. She's bigger and stronger anyway. But as technically skilled, probably every bit as good. But she has a different look entirely.
She looks like she's been in 30 odd cage fights in her life.
Exactly.
She wears it.
She wears her. She's battle tested, and you can tell.
Yeah.
And I always liked Cyborg because like none of this is coming from a bad place. But if you're trying to market somebody as a star, she's not got maybe the luck that you want to put in the magazines. And I've seen a lot of interviews with her. She's a lovely woman. I really like Cyborg. I really do. And they tried to get her into WWE a few times, and it never
happened, did it?
Never happened. I would have loved that because she's genuinely still one of my favourite fighters of all time. I love
She
that.
could have been the female Brock Lesnar
She
from
could
MMA.
Aye.
Whereas I think that Ronda is like a genuinely nice person, like a nice looking. She's got a nice attitude, whereas Brock is just a real life heel.
A big monster. But see, that's the thing. Cyborg is really nice. You see her interview, she's so friendly and so polite, and she seems like a genuinely lovely person. But her style is so aggressive. I think that's the difference. Like Ronda was aggressive in a different way. Ronda liked takedowns, and she did the armbars. Ronda's submissions were aggressive. But Cyborg's fighting style was like Vanderlei Silva's.
She just beat the living shit out of you.
Pure violence on 2 legs. That's how they marketed her. They didn't market Cyborg as, come and look at this, like a girl next door type looking thing. No, you're coming to see a fucking murderer. This woman, there's going to be blood. There's going to be violence. I actually remember Joe Rogan said that once in one of her last UFC fights when he was announcing it. He was like, right, folks, prepare for violence. Violence is coming. Cyborg.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you seen with Chris Cyborg, because she would just do it, and she seemed untouchable.
She did,
which made what Amanda Nunes done to her even crazier, because Amanda Nunes beat her in 40 seconds, 50 seconds.
That Amanda Nunes is amazing.
She is amazing.
She is so
She's a fantastic fighter.
It was that way when she came out, what she done to her. You were watching it, and what you spoke about it like a week or two ago, Blair. You were watching it behind like closed eyes. You were going, oh no. That's what it felt like when you seen what she done in Cyborg.
That's the most wrong I've ever been about a fight. I felt bad for Nunes getting into that fight. I was like, she's just the next lamb to the fucking slaughter. This is going to be bad. Cyborg's going to fuck her up, and I was so wrong. But Cyborg, she's, again, just like Ronda, she's always going to be, that's my top two, I think, for women's fighters. I love the two of them. I tuned in for every one of their fights. When Cyborg went to the UFC, I was so excited, because she'd been spent however long in Invicta just beating the fuck out of everybody.
Was there not a girl who forfeited before the fight or something against Cyborg in the UFC?
There was a lot of that, apparently. There was some stuff coming from behind the scenes that women were refusing, turning down the opportunity to fight Cyborg because they knew it was fucking waiting on them. Imagine being a professional fighter that other professional fighters will refuse to fight because they know what you're going to do to them.
Yeah.
She reminds me so much of Wanderlei Silva, the same fighting style. Just this constant forward motion, just beating the shit out of everybody that they... See, you can see I'm getting a bit excited thinking about it, because that's the last time the UFC was exciting to me. Watching Cyborg mangle everybody that she fought. That's the stuff I like.
Because like you said, you kind of said about it the same with Brock Lesnar. Like, he came and it was like a myth came with him. Exactly. It was like when they signed Cyborg. When they signed Cyborg, it was that she was spoke about in the women's division with a hushed tone. But no one...
as much as a casual that I am, I even knew what Cyborg.
I think that's what made things a lot funnier, because Ronda Rousey spent about 3 years calling her out, saying she could batter her, and it was because Cyborg signed that contract and Ronda Rousey left.
I'm not suggesting that they two are linked, but Cyborg went to the UFC, and then like a week later, it feels like Ronda was in WWE.
Wait,
are they linked?
I understand, because she spent so long saying she was shite.
It's not just that though. She was calling her. She was saying things that she looked like a man, and all this other horrible stuff. And you're like, hell mend you if she gets a hold of you. Her striking is so fucking.
Even that'll add to like the mystique of it, of Cyborg.
Right. For the delay there, it seems like the videos just stopped recording after X amount of time. So I think we've covered all the sports issues we were going to talk about, and then some, a lot of ranting. But we'll edit this one together and it'll all be alright. So that's today's sports. Guys, yeah?
Yeah.
We're good? We're comfy? We're happy?
Right.
Catch you
See you next week.
Bye.